Hello, this is how to install and use Homebrew, the package manager, on Ubuntu 24.04. This is the wiki page of Homebrew. It supports the macOS operating system, but also the Linux operating systems. Let's go to the home page and let's see how to install it. It says in a Linux shell prompt, you should run this bash curl. Sudo password. Let's see what it did. So it says that it's going to create a new account, a new directory under /home /Linux brew. So this directory does not exist. This Linux user does not exist. In there, it's going to create a hidden directory ~/.linux brew with a directory similar to the file structure that you would find under /usr. And that it cannot continue because it needs Git installed. Let's look at the installation options. And again, it's saying about this new directory that's going to be created. So it's not going to install software in /opt or in /usr/local. It's not going to use /usr, which is reserved for the packages from Ubuntu 24.04. Let's install Git and then continue. Update. Install Git. I usually also install Git-K and Git-GUI. So these two packages when I install Git. Git would be the command line tool, and this would be the graphical user interface applications that are part of the Git project. So let's try again. Okay, so it's using my current Linux user, which is named administrator. Now it says that the directory bin from the place where Linux Brew has been installed, which is /home /Linux Brew /.Linux Brew, is not in the path of my current Linux user, which is named administrator. And the way to fix this is to look at the next steps section, which is this one. It says that if I want to use the bash command line shell, which I do, and I want in path that directory, I should run these 3 command lines. Let's do this. Okay, let's actually see what happened in my bash RC. Okay, back to the text. It says that it's better if I install build essentials, which is part of the Linux minimal C compiler toolchain and part of the GNU toolchain. So let's install these. So there's a C++ compiler, a C compiler, C programming language. There's GNU make. Let's see what else we are instructed to do. We recommend that you install GCC using brew. Okay, so let's try to do this and see what's happening. And then from there on, we should go to docsbrew.sh. So we're going to install the GCC C programming language compiler, both from Ubuntu 24.04, which we just did when we went up to install Build Essential, and now we're also going to install GCC from Brew package manager. It downloads pre-built archives. And it's putting them into the Linux Brew, Homebrew install directory. Linux Brew was an effort which is now part of Homebrew. Brew cleanup GCC. So the install directory and then /seller/GCC and the version. /seller/binutils/the version. Z standard, zlib compression libraries xz, lz4. Okay. I'm installing Midnight Commander, the text user interface file manager. And then we're going to see the directory structure that has been created under /home/Linux Brew. Let's see if we can just go there. So all of the files are owned by my Linux user, not by an additional Linux user named Linux Brew. So it's interesting the location, the directory where Homebrew was installed, but still Homebrew is owned by my user. So I don't need many permissions once Homebrew is installed correctly. Yes, you need sudo permissions in order to install Build Essentials, in order to install Git, in order to create the directory /home/Linux Brew and chown it. But once Linux Brew finishes installing, it doesn't touch outside the /home directory, which is useful if you're using an immutable Linux operating system. If /usr is read-only, or the /usr/local or /opt are read-only. And then it doesn't require sudo permissions, so it can be used by your Linux user to install additional software on your computer if for some reason after Homebrew is installed for your user, you're denied sudo permissions from that point on. Okay, so it said seller, GCC, and then version. So this is similar to the content of a binary package, a RPM package, a deb package. This is what the deb package for GCC, for instance, would contain. So a bin directory that's then going to be installed in /usr/bin, a include directory that's going to be installed into /usr/include, man pages, etc. Okay, and then there's a bin directory that actually contains brew, which is a symlink. Homebrew bin brew from here. Let's see the next steps. So once we have Homebrew installed, we could start installing packages from Homebrew. Let's see how we install wget. So brew install, similar to apt install, dnf install, etc. It downloads all of the dependencies of wget, the root certificates, SQLite, OpenSSL, GNU readline, an entire Linux distribution is going to live under the Homebrew install directory. Okay, let's see if wget just gets in the path environment variable. It does. Let's see if this is actually a symlink. Yes, it is. So the Homebrew install directory /bin contains many symlinks to the correct seller. Let's look inside this seller with MC. Do we do that? MC /home/Linux brew and seller wget. Okay, version, and then bin wget, the man page and documentation GNU info. Okay, let's look at the home environment variable, not home, path. So prepended to your path environment variable, there's the Homebrew install directory /bin. There's also a /sbin directory in there. Okay, so we saw the structure of directories inside the seller. We saw the symlink. And now we can even edit the recipe of wget. Let's do that. Brew edit wget. Let's see what it's doing. To turn developer mode off, run brew developer off. We should set the editor environment variable or homebrew editor. So it says the homebrew install directory and then not seller but /opt. Let's see what that thing is. So the homebrew install directory, then /opt. This is just symlinks to the various sellers to a certain version of a seller, maybe the newest one. And then wget, and then brew, and then wget.rb. So wget, brew, and wget.rb. There's just one Ruby file. see if we have a text editor. This is the Midnight Commander text editor, mcedit. It's just a Ruby class that inherits from the Ruby class formula. Description, homepage, URL, checksum, license. There's Git. So maybe there's possibility of installing wget from a release tarball, version 1.25.0, and then maybe there's a possibility of installing from Git master branch. Okay. There's parts of the recipe that are macOS specific, uses from macOS and on macOS. And then there's parts that are Linux specific on Linux. The common parts don't say neither macOS nor Linux. These three depends on. If it's building from Git master, you need to go /bootstrap, then /configure, then make install. And let's see what prefix is it using. It's this variable prefix, and sysconfdir this variable etc. Okay, so it's doing the expected things, which is download the release tarball, extract it, and then do the /configure make install. It's not doing make, it's just doing make install. And at the /configure step, it's telling it where /etc should be, where it should be installed, such that the executable will be able to find the shared libraries.so files and the configuration files. I know it's probably configured to use /home/.linux brew/opt probably. Okay, and the recipe is extremely short, extremely easy to develop, maintain, debug. There's also tests, a simple test, just to download a page that always exists to nowhere, /dev/null. And then it's probably going to look at the exit status, should be successful, which is 0. On macOS, there's additional things that Brew Package Manager does, which is install binary packages, binary only. For instance, it can download the binaries tarballs from Firefox for various versions of Firefox, for ESR, etc. So it says that on the macOS operating system, it knows how to download and install binary packages from their official website, from the upstream, from the application itself. Applications, fonts, plugins, other non-open source software. There's no support for Cask on Linux, so for installing binary packages. For downloading binary packages from Mozilla Firefox, for instance. It knows how to download source code tarballs from the official website of that project, and then it's going to download the source code tarball and build it and install it. We actually did not compile anything on my computer. There's servers that the Brew project has that run all of the recipes and build all of the software for Linux from source code release tarballs, such that end users such as myself just download binary pre-compiled archives, and on my computer these binary precompiled archives are just extracted into the install directory, into a seller. Let's look a bit at some documentation. There's man pages. The Brew package manager has an entire glossary. There's formula, cask, prefix, keg, rec, etc. You need to know all of these if you want to develop for Homebrew, and you should know them or know that there's a glossary of items for Homebrew and where to find this glossary if you're a user of Homebrew. Okay, brew install, formula, brew uninstall, and brew list. Let's see this thing. These are the installed formulae. So these are the binary tarballs that have been downloaded from the Homebrew website and installed on my computer. There's wget and all of its dependencies, and GCC and all of its dependencies. I have only run brew install twice, brew install GCC and brew install wget. Brew formulae, so the plural from formula with Latin style AE, will show the binary packages that can be installed on my installation, Ubuntu 2404. So let's do that. Brew formulae, and it's going to be a ton of output, so let's pipe it through less. Very familiar names for the binary packages. These similar RPMs exist in Fedora and Red Hat Enterprise Linux family of Linux operating systems. Similar packages with similar package names exist in the Debian Ubuntu family of Linux operating systems, etc. A2PS. ACL2. Okay. What's interesting in this list? Nothing. We read AG and I didn't find anything interesting. Adwaita icon theme. Alpine, maybe the alternative to Pine. Email client with text user interface. And the Java build tool. Apache portable runtime. Apache Okay, so there's tens of thousands of binary packages that I can install. I'm not sure if there are graphical user interface applications in here, but there seem to be a ton of applications, text user interface applications or command line applications that are for development purposes, for cloud programming, for web development. GNU toolchain, AutoGen, AutoConf, AutoMake, AWS, Azure, Microsoft Azure, the Bash command line shell, Berkeley database with 2 versions, so the DB package, bind the what's this bind? The DNS client server, Bitcoin things, Bluesy the Bluetooth stack, Box the Intel 386 emulator, Boost the C++ libraries, programming languages, bubble wrap the security confinement technology, broadly the compression algorithm, Boop, probably the backup tool, bzip, CA certificates, Cairo, the library for graphical user interface images, Cargo, probably Rust packages, Cascadia, probably fonts, Clam antivirus, clang, cmake, Cloudflare, CloudFormation, Conda, yeah, a ton of tools for system administrators, for DevOps, for developers. If you're using a programming language such as Rust or Ruby that has their own package manager, you probably can install all of the no arch tools, all of the tools that don't really depend on your CPU architecture using that package manager. But if you need tools that need to be compiled for your specific architecture and those tools cannot for some reason be provided by the package manager from your programming language, then you should install them, in my case Ubuntu 24.04 from official Ubuntu the packages. And if that doesn't work, then maybe Homebrew can install some of those dependencies. Okay, so that's a huge list. We'll see how to search for packages, and that's probably going to be it. You can always search by just grepping on this list. So let's see, clang, yes, MC, where are you? I don't find it. It's midnight minus commander. Okay, let's see Emacs. Hopefully it's text user interface only. Let's install it. Install. We'll see if this is Emacs no X. If it's for graphical user interface, it's going to depend on a ton of X libraries, on GTK, which doesn't seem to be the case. From the list of the packages that I have seen, I did not actually see any graphical user interface application. So it's the text user interface only version of Emacs from what I see. Let's search for some graphical user interface applications. There's Xterm. Okay, so the X libraries are packaged: XCB, XExt, XAU, etc. And there are some graphical user interface applications in Homebrew. Maybe more additional graphical user interface applications will be made available to Homebrew for Linux. It finished installing. Xterm. And it's in here. This guy. GNOME terminal, this guy. Bash in here, then Xterm, this guy, this graphical user interface application, Bash inside, and then PS3 inside. Okay, so do know that Homebrew also works on Linux, that it knows how to install software from source code release tarballs, does not know how to install packages from binary tarballs, and it has a huge list of packages available, especially packages which are non-graphical user interface, text user interface, or command line packages, and are useful for development, for DevOps, for sysadmin tasks. Thank you.